Good afternoon, everybody. So we are here to talk IBP. IBP in CPG, as you can imagine, is one of the hot topic. And what's best than to have three experienced leaders that are going to talk about the vision and the journey that they are in their respective company for the next 20 minutes. So first of all, I would say, why don't you introduce yourself, and also what's the vision that you have in your company around IBP, and which part of the journey are you in? Because you are at different stages. So do you want to start, Tucker?
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Tucker Reimer. I'm our Vice President of Global Planning and Analytics at Johnsonville. And our vision for IBP was to create and develop an end-to-end planning process that could serve as a tool and a platform for our members to make decisions. So while we've finished up our implementation a little bit over a year ago, we are consistently improving our process every month. And I'll explain a little bit more about the details of that in a separate question.
Great.
Andrea.
Hello, I'm Andrea Castle, and I'm from Danone, North America. I lead our digital supply chain transformation. And our vision has very similar to all the talks we've gone through today, end-to-end, connected planning, autonomous, exception-based, order management, and data-based timely decision making. So we're really moving from an Excel-based non-standard process into standard processes that can inform our business and support our growth. Where we are on a 2 years into a journey with O9. We are implementing supply and demand planning as well as IBP, and then we're going to move on to all the other suite of products from material planning, detailed scheduling. We have MEIO, but we're looking into S&OE and the financial planning as well.
Hi, everybody. I'm Naveen Chandar. I'm with Keurig Dr. Pepper. Been with the company for like 10 months now. I have to lead the S&OP and customer service part of Keurig supply chain. Where we are is an interesting one. So I would say IBP is an overused term at KDP, but it means different things based on functions and segments and business units you're part of. So I kind of think of it as we are making our way to the starting line of IBP. And part of it is, one of the speakers mentioned earlier, like we think about these transformations from the point at which we start delivering. So if I think about that, we recently signed up with O9 on implementing the IBP module and supply planning and a few things. And the way I think about it is like there's a lot of work happening right now, but the journey really begins when we start delivering to it, both from a technology perspective, but also from a process and cross-functional alignment. So that's where we are.
So as we said, different stage of implementation. You are maturing, you are exploiting, you are still at the beginning of the journey. But it's interesting to understand what are the complexity, and more important as well, also the value. When we talk about IBP, integrated means that you are touching all functions. You are touching marketing, sales, supply chain, finance. And many times it's so difficult to identify the business case and the competing priorities against business case. So it will be interesting to understand how do you think about business case and value? So Tucker, do you want to start?
Yeah, IBP is fundamentally a strategy deployment process, right? And so while we certainly track the short-term benefits, the way I talk about it throughout the organization is that where the true value comes from is in strategy realization. And so we certainly, like I said, track those short-term benefits, but we certainly don't lose sight of the long-term strategic objectives as well.
Naveen, how would you add? Because you are actually at the more at the end, still at the beginning. Sorry.
Yeah. So value in two ways, right? One is how we empower our teams, planners, per se. And I think we are at a point where today the planners are busy planning all the time. When then you realize you're really not planning, you're just reacting all the time. It just shows up as planning all the time. And so part of it is like, how do you pivot, make that pivot where, you heard about touchless planning and several aspects of it. Like, how do we make that pivot where planning becomes more about actioning in the plans and managing the outliers and exceptions that come up versus constantly reacting to the world. So that's one measure of it. Another measure of it is purely based on outcomes, right? It's a service, inventory, and cost. Inventory is a symptom of a lot of things. How do you get that right? But we're not really acting from the outcome perspective, but more from the inputs that we can control from a forecast accuracy, from an OEE, that we could improve, that results in those outcomes. So that's really how we have approached the value case. But I'll also say this thing, the vision of IBP from a process perspective may be big, but in terms of how we look at O9 implementations, we're intentionally underselling the value. And the reason is technology is just part of the equation. And so there's more to it. And so that's where like how you differentiate in terms of some of the immediate investments and how do you think about it from a long-term perspective.
This is a great segue in the second subject I would like to touch, which is the challenges. Because as we say, this is a massive transformation in the way of operating that is touching all different areas of the organization. So what are the key barriers that you have found during the implementation, but also during the, let me say, selling the vision, how you were energizing the organization into believing into this transformation, and how you overcome these obstacles? Andrea, do you want to start?
Sure. For our organization, it's been a compelling demand from the very beginning. Certainly, going through COVID and all of the challenges we had with the supply chain, we just had the inability to react quickly with our tools and make timely decisions. So that's been the exciting thing, is that there is a need across our stakeholders and across our planner base. I think the greater challenge for us has been coordinating a global transformation. We're North America, while there are multiple transformations going on as well. So it comes in the form of data challenges and process challenges, resource challenges as well. It's probably standard. I've heard many people comment to that today, but as well has been the upskilling, which was another comment. We put a lot of emphasis on change management. We have change champions, we have training, we have communication. But when it really came down to it and you delivered the tool and it's sitting there on the desk of the users, the planners, it's when the rubber meets the road. This is when you move from building a plan in Excel or working in APO to having tools to do much more than you've ever had before. So we're on that journey, and it's about doubling down with our planners, and we're looking at how we reskill just basics in planning, concepts, demand, supply, but it's also critical thinking, cross-functional collaboration, so that they can work on the tool with their stakeholders. So just as important to really have that to realize your benefits.
Naveen, so what's for you?
Yeah. First, thanks, Andrea, for mentioning APO and Excel. I'm seeing many of the folks here can relate to that. I think in terms of challenges, one I would say we're at the early part of our journey to that extent that a big part of it is like cross-functional trust and relationship and building those expectations over what could be the possible, the art of the possible, too often today, in the way the KDP engine works, supply chain is brought in late into the game. It's not quite all the time. Like we have a coffee business which runs differently from a cold business, so you have some of these nuances. But in general, we have a ton of opportunity in terms of like bringing that cross-functional element to truly get to the end-to-end planning aspects of it. Second thing is data. You've heard about data. I'm not going to say anything new other than I'll qualify this saying real-time, connected, accessible data. This is, again, goes into when people start talking source systems, better abstraction layers, you're creating these things which is inherently going to complicate, but how do you, simplify while you figure out the right model, right, in terms of data accessibility. And then the last one is our aspirations with Keurig Dr. Pepper in terms of end-to-end planning transformation, supply chain digitalization are much bigger than how we are resourced today. So a big part of it is like our journey to get there in terms of getting the right people, having the right structure, putting the right process in place is going to be like kind of the thing that brings me paranoia of some sort is that one. So.
And I like a lot that both of you are stressing the element of this is really a process transformation, a change management, empowered by the technology, empowered by the data. But you were talking about the reskilling of the people, you were talking about also the reskilling. So there is a component which is very important about how we change the process, the way of operating, building the consensus, and as well also creating this shift from I've been planning on Excel for 30 years and I know the business, from the art into the science, and this is what the numbers are going to tell you. So I would imagine that this is a constant change that you are driving every day in the organization. The machine cannot learn. There is no AI machine learning if each time you have override the numbers with your knowledge. Are you spending effort in this reskilling and convincing the people?
Yes, we are. And I think that it's more of the run, walk, or crawl, run, walk journey in standardizing processes, taking those low-hanging fruit to develop some of the light digital, automate, and build to leverage your technology. But it's exposing people to the bigger picture. It's a lot to absorb, this whole planning transformation that we're underway amongst many other transformations that are going on, manufacturing, quality, logistics. So it's finding the right amount of chunking it up to deliver it to the team.
So, Tucker, you are a little bit ahead in this transformation because you are the one that are talking about continuous improvement. So, can you tell a couple of things? The first one is, how long did you take, in your opinion, to get to the journey in, now we talk about continuous improvement, moving from implementation to continuous improvement? And can you share with us some success stories?
Yeah, I think one of our greatest success stories and something that excites me the most is that our IBP process now operates as the heartbeat of our business. So that you can go to different process step meetings and you can get a better understanding of what's happening in a global category or a global market. Or you can go to our supply review and have an understanding of how our operations are performing and where we're focusing for asset revitalization. And then you can go to our SBR or MBR and have a better understanding of how we're achieving our strategic objectives. So for me, that is something that truly excites me, and I'm really happy with where we ended up.
How long did it take to get there?
It took us 3 years.
3 years.
Yep.
3 years during COVID.
During COVID, yeah, yeah.
Was
like 10.
Was COVID an accelerator, or in your opinion, or creating a crisis, or was more actually a barrier?
Yeah, it's a similar structure to how you would implement a connected planning solution. We went through our our blueprinting phase, our business process improvement phase, and now obviously implementation. So that we structured in improvements and learnings for our teams and everything like that as well.
Okay. So now you are at a different stage, but it's clear that you have a vision for IBP. So where do you see IBP evolving to what, and how you are thinking, adapting on what direction you need to take the company? Naveen, do you want to start?
We are farther away from it, but I would say in two ways. One is like, we get this right, when we get this right, the right way to put it, when we get this right, at least say it's 3-year journey ahead of us, Tucker, I think it gives us certain elements we do today. We have like responsible expectations around ESG metrics that the way we do that today in terms of how we hold ourselves accountable and measure is a very complicated process. Those things could get very simplified from scope 2, scope 3, and all of the stuff. Similarly, supplier resiliency, I know Resilink was here talking about it, that is going to be a big space as well as we get into it. The other side of things from the people point of view is like, a personal ambition is like, take planning as a specialized skill away. Take planners as general managers. The Marovac's paradox of like, those things that is so specialized could be automated, and it could be more liberating and empowering. So I was recently talking to one of the CPG companies where they've actually got to that point where like people who ran IBP under the business units are essentially looked as the future general managers of the business units, which in the past usually came from sales and marketing. So, and that journey in terms of how we get there is going to kind of like lift the organization as a whole. So that's where we want to see at least 3 years from here.
Good. Tucker?
Yeah, one of the most natural areas of progression that I see is within the portfolio management step. I think traditionally it's about managing a products and services, your portfolio of products and services. In the future, I can see it expanding its role to include all of cash utilization. So whether it's media spend or asset revitalization, the role of PMR would then be to manage your investments across your total portfolio, not just specific to products or services.
Andrea, what's for you the future?
Well, both of these gentlemen have, I agree with your direction as well. I think it is enabling our strategic asset resources, being the future general managers, being thought leaders in the supply chain organization, and overall connectedness across the enterprise with automation of tools that we are collaborating globally and locally across our business units. If we have standard tools and technology that provide us real-time visibility to make decisions. So it's clearly in the future, but it is a different world.
So if I have to summarize a little bit the direction that you were talking about, so I like, first of all, what Tucker said at the beginning, which is the real success of the IBP has been when he's the heartbeat at the center of the company, because that is really driving all the processes. And then I think what's really come out on the conversation between all three of them is a clear concept of this. We are talking about the transformation that truly encompass people, process, technology, and data. Yeah. So to succeed, you need to have the right scale. We need to have the right processes, the right technology, and the data, as Naveen said, extremely, extremely important. And I believe is very, very insightful as well, this concept of the evolution of the planner that becomes a general manager. So it's more at the intersection of all the function and allows to have the dialogue and the interpretation of the insight to take the right decision. So very, very insightful. I really appreciate the conversation, and I want to thank you for the participation. Thank you.
Thank you.